continue with our Q&A before Salat al-Jumu'ah. It's 10 minutes before we start the khutbah, inshallah, and this will be every Friday. You can submit your questions online. Inshallah, in a couple weeks, the TV screens and everything will be back up so that you can scan the QR code and you can submit your question anonymously. How many rak'ah to read before the Fard of Isha? Is there a difference of opinion between the madahib? Not that I'm aware of. The only differences of opinion between the madahib is you have one of the branches of the Hanafi school, the Deobandis, they add some nawafil after Salat al-Isha, but I don't know of any difference of opinion between the madahib in terms of what to pray before Salat al-Isha, because you have very clear ahadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to pray 4 rak'ah before Salat al-Isha. The only differences of opinion is how to pray them. So the Jamhur, the Malikis, the Shafi'is, and the Hanabila, they say you pray them in sets of 2. Some of the Ahnaf, they allow you to pray 4 altogether, but the difference is that you read a surah with every rak'ah. So it's different from how you would pray fard. So that's the only difference that I'm aware of, and Allah knows best. Should elbows ever be touching the ground while praying? I saw someone praying like this at Al-Hijrah. So if you're praying in jama'ah, then you shouldn't put your elbows out, right? So the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded when you are praying individually that an individual's elbows should not be facing inward. And if you're praying in jama'ah, don't face them outward because it'll cause idah, right? You'll hurt the person that's next to you. So try not to take up a lot of space when you're praying in jama'ah. Some of the madahib also talk about women, how their prayer is different than men's. It should be more conservative than a man's prayer, which is why you have some of the madahib talk about a woman praying a little bit more tightly than a man. A man is a little bit more extroverted during his prayer. Is it considered haram to break laws that are set by government, like speeding and making U-turns? I can't say it's haram. Right? I don't think that there is a sin that's associated where someone, if they run a stop sign or they run a red light. I think that it is haram when somebody else gets hurt. Right? There's no doubt about that. So if I run a red light and I hit someone, yes, then there is a sin that's associated with that. Laws are there for our protections, but like I said, to say that there's a sin associated with it, I find that extremely problematic. The only disobedience that I can think of when it comes to sinning outside of Allah and His Messenger, probably with parents, right? So if a child disobeys his parents, this is where that you could say that they're sinning. But I can't say that there would be sinning, for running a red light or for speeding. If that was the case, I'd be sinning all the time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. The next question, this is a bit political, but the elections are coming up, Sheikh, and how should we view them? I think voting is something that can be very personal, and I know that many people like to vote based on singular issues. Right now, the biggest issue that a lot of Muslims are voting around and about have to do with the U.S. government's response to the issue in Palestine. And that's understandable. I respect anyone who votes just based on that issue particularly. But there are many people who have a lot of different issues that are facing them personally. If someone had come to me and asked me, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect and preserve all of our parents, and have mercy on all of those parents who have passed. But if someone said to me, and my mother was ill, like what is more important to me, my mother or the situation in Palestine? Of course I'm going to say my mother is more important. So, and that's a tough conversation to have with a lot of people. Everybody has their own issues. Everyone has their own problems. Some people have medical issues that they have to take care of, that they have to worry about. Some people have financial constraints and issues that they have to take care of. Some people have children who have special needs that they have to worry and they have to take care about. Some people are from different parts of the world. So if for example, I was Sudani, and I had family in Sudan that was being oppressed by the war, that would be my personal priority. If I had a family if I was Yemeni and I had a family from Yemen, that would be my personal priority. If I had a family from Kashmir that was being oppressed by the Indian government, that would be my personal priority. So I don't get mad at anyone who has their own personal priority in this race. There are some imams who say that we should vote third party, some of them implying that we should vote for the Green Party. I have my own issues with that. Part of it is because the Green Party, the platform they stand on, right? They stand on supporters and proponents of transgenderism and transition surgery. They're big proponents of radical feminism, right? Like in how the role of the woman in society, like things that don't align with our Islamic values. And there's no political party that's going to completely align with what we do, right? Just being honest. So some people, they're like, okay, no, this is the issue that is going to push me to vote for this. I'm okay with that. I think the important thing is, for me personally, to get involved locally, right? It's important for us to know who the county supervisor is. It's important for us to know who sits on the soil board. It's important for us who knows who sits on these different zoning commissions. It's important for us who sits on the school board. A lot of these things have a direct effect on myself. They have a lot of direct effect on my property taxes, my children's schooling, what is going to happen within the county itself. Because the reality is, all of us sitting here, all of us, it didn't matter who the president was. We were still able to achieve whatever it was that we sought out to achieve, regardless of who was heading the government. And the Muslims have been involved in politics, I would say, actively from when I've been growing up, since Bush, right? So you're talking about like maybe 90s, right? Like, so the question I always have is like, okay, well, what have we gotten out of it, right? Like, we pushed for Bush, and then we pushed for Clinton, and then we pushed for Obama. This last cycle, there was like a push for Biden. Now, there's like a mixed bag, right? You have some Muslims who think Trump is a better candidate, some Muslims who think we should vote Green Party, some Muslims who think like, oh, Trump is so evil that we have to vote for Trump. I don't care. Like, I mean, vote for who you think is going to be best, but be involved locally, right? That's what matters. Those zoning boards are the ones that decide on whether you can expand your masjid or not. Those school boards are going to decide on whether they should have gay education in our schools, whether they should have sex education in our schools, right? These are the things that directly affect us. The presidency, federal elections, has very little bearing on what happens to us within our communities and within our homes. There is some push on foreign policy, but like I said, everybody's going to have their own personal priorities. I respect that. I think that's reasonable, and if you feel that voting for the issue on Palestine alone is your main motivating factor for the federal elections, then I would just encourage you, okay, well, read what the solutions are, right? I think that's something that a lot of us don't like talking about. And if anybody says to me like, oh, well, this party wants a ceasefire is not a solution, to me at least, right? I don't believe that to be a solution. You have some very radical candidates out there, who are a little bit out there, and maybe some of us might not agree with some of the things that they say. So there's one candidate, Dr. Shiva, he advocates for actually arming the Palestinians. And he's a presidential candidate. And he says the reason for that is because that's the only way the Israelis are going to come to the negotiation table. You have the Constitution Party and the Libertarian Party. They say, well, we should stop funding Israel, right? These to me are actually solutions. Like, so if anybody asks me like what do solutions look like, well, that's what solutions look like to me. So if that is going to be the reason that you're voting, okay, look into what people are saying, right? Be an educated voter. That's the only thing I would say. That's the only thing I would request. And a lot of the best law, okay, that's kind of